I'm Andrew Robinson. I'm a captain in the United States Army, and these are my watches.
Andrew, nice meeting you, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So before we jump into your collection, I think this is always good to have these conversations because it gives us a window into the different walks of life people have, what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about you first before we learn about your collection. So can you tell us more about your journey, your story, and what you do?
Yeah, I'll tell you about it. So I'm a captain in the Army right now. I joined the Army in high school. So I was 17 years old and I enlisted in the Army in high school. So I went to basic training between my junior and senior year. And then I was in the Army Reserve. So after that, I went to college at Xavier and Thomas More University in Cincinnati. So I'm a fellow Buckeye.
Ohio.
Go Buckeyes. And after that, I commissioned as an officer. So I was an engineer originally, and then now I'm an infantry officer. So I had the pleasure of being stationed in Hawaii, which was beautiful and an awesome experience. I met a lot of good friends and a lot of amazing watches out there. And now I'm in the command course in Washington, D.C. I'm an Army guy, but I'm doing the Marine Corps command course. And then I'll be going to the 173rd, which is an airborne unit in Italy, for command in the next couple weeks. So I'm super pumped about that.
How would you say that your background, like as an armed service member, has like influenced your watch collecting? Has that like deepened it? Like what came first, and how do you think about collecting with that lens?
That is such a good question, and it's something that I try to fight all the time. So, yeah, I started collecting. I really got into watches when I was on a deployment in the Philippines, or a rotation in the Philippines, and I was there, and I had nothing but my cell phone, and I was on a cot. And I was just watching all the James Bond movies on my free time. The first time ever watching it, I started from the Goldfinger and then worked my way up to the new Daniel Craig movies. And I was like, wow, I really need a nice watch. So the subliminal messaging really worked. And that's how I kind of got into it. And my first watch that I bought after that was a diver. And that's kind of how it really sprung. But from there, I try to collect watches that speak to me as a person. And I think you'll see that in some of my collection that aren't necessarily military, but I think you're also going to see a lot of themes that I play the role of the stage very well.
You can't deny self. You know, you are what you are, and I think it's great. There's some of the watches on the table here that I'm very happy someone like you owns them, but we'll get to that. I mean, where would you like to begin with your collection?
I think we'll start with the Casio because it's a very fitting start to the watch. So I got this Casio before I was even into collecting, and I was a drummer in the band called the Woodchucks. And it's this little cover band in Hawaii that we started. I've been playing music since I was in middle school. So I need something that can absorb a lot of shock, right? So I knew before my non-watch brain was developed that I needed a quartz watch that could take the shock. So I got this watch, and I probably paid $20 for this thing on Amazon. And I'm amazed that I brought it here because it truly has just stood the test of time. It's an incredible piece. And I've played the drums in it for the past 5 years, and it's awesome.
Looks pretty beat up. It's looking like a well-worn snare drum right here, right?
That's right, a ton of hits from it. My favorite memory with this watch, I was doing a photo shoot for our band, and we're not anything big, but we were doing a photo shoot to do like little album covers on Spotify, and I was wearing this watch in the ocean and just doing like a photo shoot in a suit, and it looked really silly and fun. And when I look back on that watch, I just think of that time in Hawaii and then drumming and playing music. So music's a big part of my life, and whether I like it or not, so is a $20 Casio. So
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, in terms of value for dollar, making a little bit of a statement, I mean, they're cool. The A168s are
It's the perfect amount of flash when you're on stage behind the drums, just, getting after it. So I get a lot of questions about that, like, how much is that? And I'm like, oh, it's only $20. So
it goes to show that sometimes the most asked about questions for people that aren't into watches are things that you would never assume anything of if you're into the game.
And watches that you don't plan to make memories with are sometimes the watches that mean the most to you. Yeah.
Where'd you like to go next?
Let's go with the Vostok.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's do the Vostok. So the Vostok is, as you all know, a very military watch. It's very ironic that I wear it, being in the U.S. Army and wearing a Russian watch, but I learned about it from you. Thank you for that. But
good old scuba dude.
Good old scuba dude. I thought it was very eclectic, very weird, and I bought this watch for $100. It came to me like 3 weeks late. Like everything you can imagine that happened with the Vostok happened with the Vostok.
Yeah, there's a weird journey. Like you get an unmarked package in the mail, and you're like, "What was this again?" And
yeah.
It's like, okay, here it is.
Yeah, and this was it. Like sometimes it'll stop working, and I seriously had to beat on the thing to get the seconds hand to start going again, which is hilarious. But I was a big spear fisherman in Hawaii. That was my hobby. And right after I got back from the deployment, I wanted a dive watch, and this is it. So I got this as a dive watch to enjoy, and yeah, it's just grown with me. There's a lot of photos of me in uniform wearing this Vostok. I just love the irony of it. When I got to DC, I was sitting next to a kid named Owen who wasn't really into watches, but he was curious about it. So I would come into class every day. We had assigned seats, and he'd ask me, he'd be like, what is this watch you're wearing? I see you wearing this little dive watch all the time. And I'm like, I'm wearing it's what's called a scuba dude. I told him about it. I told him how it's Russian. He thought that was really funny. So he seemed super interested in it. So the next day I just came in with a box and I gifted him it. So this is my replacement, but
it's amazing,
I gave him the same watch, and we'll talk about Owen a little bit later, but there's some foreshadowing to that. But it's just an awesome, durable watch, and it's like a Looney Tunes watch. You just knock it, it keeps going. It's silly.
Yeah, it's rough around the edges is probably an understatement, but
Yeah.
it's the antithesis of refinement. But in that, it's endearing.
It is super endearing. I love wearing it. It's it's just for $100. Like if I were to get this or 3 Casios, I get this every time. So I love this watch.
And it's one of the watches where we were talking about like happy someone like you owns it. Like it's a fun, connection and story just given its background.
Despite fighting who I am in my collection, I have absolutely played the role very well. So that's my Vostok.
Talk about playing a role. Something that seems like a theme for you is Japanese watchmaking.
I love Japanese watchmaking. Yeah, so we have this King Seiko here, and this was probably a year after getting into watches seriously, and I was super fascinated with the Daini and Suwa competition of Grand Seiko and King Seiko, and I seen this on eBay for probably like $300, and I was like, this is absolutely so unique. The way the case design is, this could like work in a tuxedo kind of thing, and I love that about it, and I just wanted something old and cheap with an interesting history, and I think that kind of has driven me in my watch collecting. Is history is really what drives me, the stories behind watches, and that's a perfect story of that competition. So
yeah, and the competition between these two manufacturing sites, I mean, it was definitely it was not so aggressive in how they were going back and forth with each other. Like there was a little bit of camaraderie and internal type of communication, but there was also a lot of exchanging of technologies. And when they were submitting watches for these chronometer competitions, they would almost work in tandem, and that was like the way for them to compete, is like who could regulate the best and most accurate watch. But this watch, so this little emblem right here, you talked about the Daini factory, which was in Tokyo, but then in Suwa Seikosha, which is in the Suwa region, or Nagano Prefecture.
Right.
This was actually produced in that factory. So this is a King Seiko produced in the Suwa factory.
that is so strange.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. That is so awesome.
So like that, so you can see this little emblem here. That is the Suwa emblem, and then the other Daini has more like this lightning bolt emblem. So that's like a way to identify. And there was very few King Seikos that were produced in that factory. So that's pretty interesting.
So I absolutely just love Japanese watchmaking. I've been to Japan a couple of times now, and it's been incredible every time. And Japan holds a special place in my heart. So when I wear these Japanese pieces, it just kind of brings me back to that moment. And I tried to learn Japanese the past 2 years.
Good luck.
Yeah, and it's absolutely impossible, but I know enough to get around. So it's been a lot of fun with that. So yeah.
So you talked about this connection to Japan. You visited Japan. I'm just assuming, but we have a watch from a brand from Kyoto. Did you get this in Kyoto? This is cool.
I got this in Kyoto, and I cannot say enough good things about this brand. I'm going to sound like a Kuoe ambassador for a minute, but that's okay. So I got this on my first trip to Japan with one of my best friends. We were stationed together. We were both platoon leaders in Hawaii, and he's half Japanese. So for the longest time, he's like, you gotta go. And I'm like, I'm already on a beautiful island. But eventually I did go to Japan, and I fell in love with Japan. My best friend that I'm telling you about, CJ, his dad actually owned a watch business in the 90s and 2000s. But because of that, CJ never got into it because he always heard his dad talking about it. So I went to Kyoto, and I lied. I was like, hey, we need to go to this 7-Eleven on the corner. I knew where I was taking him. And we
pretend we're getting egg sandwiches like 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
we're gonna get some watches.
Yeah, we're gonna get some strong zeros. But no, we went and got myself a watch, and I took him in there, and he fell in love with watches at that moment. That was something that's really beautiful. I picked up this watch, and I think something that's really interesting about going in there, you can pick out your own. They have it. It's very modular. So you can pick out your own case, your own dial, and basically set it up to the way you want it to look, which is really awesome. And I designed this for me. I was in there for probably an hour talking the guy's ear off, and eventually he was like, all right, man, you just need a dress watch, get out. And he was trying to get me out of there because I was so excited to be there. But I got a watch, and then CJ, one of my best friends, he also got a Kuoe. So this watch is really sentimental to me. It doesn't get a lot of wear because it's so small, and it's really good for a suit, and I don't wear that a whole lot. But I wear one of my most inexpensive watches in my most
Formal
precious
settings, yeah.
formal settings.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very neat.
So I love this watch, and it's really special. So
What's so strange about like this brand, and it's weird to say this, but there's not a lot of like Japanese micro brand culture.
Yes.
And you think about a lot of the micro brand culture is based around suppliers, and like what under $1,000 you have the surplus of supply when it comes to movements.
Right.
Like you're in Japan, you have Miyota, you have Seiko instruments, and being able to have access, which they take advantage of. But
yeah.
it makes total sense why this brand has taken off very quickly, because they've now just given an alternative and totally different design philosophy compared to like traditional Japanese design.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why they've been able to take off. And I mean, for under $1,000, I mean, they're pretty sweet.
They're very aggressive in their advertisement, and that made me hesitant almost at first. But I walked into the boutique, and when you buy this watch, you think you're buying a Royal Oak or a Patek, the way they treat you. So there's a lot of hospitality and a lot of love behind this brand, and it was awesome to see the watchmakers back behind the glass getting after it. So super awesome watch, and I'm super happy about it.
We talked about how it was almost this denial of self and not fulfilling the stereotype, but I'm actually happy to fulfill the stereotype with this next watch. We have a Willard on the table. I love it. Tell us why you love the Willard.
Oh my goodness, I love the Willard because I'm in the Army. No, just kidding. I love the Willard because of, a couple reasons. So it wears incredibly comfortably because it's rounded and there's no hard edges on the Willard. But the story behind this, so I have a good friend named Emiliano who I bought a watch for his birthday. When we were stationed in Hawaii, and I bought him a PRX, as one does. And it was my birthday a year later, and we just so happened to be stationed in DC together. And he was like, hey, all the guys have pulled together like $500. We want to go take you watch shopping. So they took me to this little mom and pop shop called Arlington Watchworks. I went in there, and I seen this Willard, and I knew a little bit about it. But once I heard it's like the Captain Willard watch, and like hearing the history of like Vietnam and how significant it was during the time, I was like, I absolutely need to pull trigger on this watch, and that's what I did. It's a beautiful watch. It wears super comfortably. I've had it serviced once, and when I tell you I have put some damage on this watch, I have, and it's withheld everything. From being in the swamps and the jungle.
So is this a watch that you'll wear in the field quite a bit?
I do wear it in the field quite a bit. And I plan to jump out of planes with it. So.
Okay. You're telling me you didn't like jump heights, and I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I'm not a big heights guy, and I'm about to be an airborne commander. But
good luck with that, man.
Yeah, but no, it's awesome. And me and that friend, we eventually got into watches really heavily, and we started like a little LLC for our family to just sell watches to our friends and family. And this is kind of like the birth of that, because we nerded out over both being captains in the Army. And Captain Willard wears the 173rd patch, which is the unit I'm going to now. And I didn't know that at the time.
It's a sweet connection.
It's a perfect setup for me when I didn't even know it.
So you bought this watch not knowing that there was going to be that later affiliation.
Yeah, so not only is it the captain watch, being a captain in the Army, which is already funny, but going to that unit that he wears on his arm is pretty sweet. So
that's amazing.
It's an awesome watch, and it's super durable, but I love it.
Cliche, but probably meant to be,
As we'll see, I'm very cliche in my collecting, and that's okay.
No, I love it, man.
Yeah.
So PRX, you mentioned PRX. You have a PRX on the table. What's the story behind this one?
Okay, the story is, I've probably seen one of your videos and then got fixated on buying a PRX, and that's okay. There was this huge craze a couple of years ago, and I think there still is one.
Absolutely. I mean, from the COVID era, we'll call it the COVID era,
it is the COVID era
of new watch collectors. I mean, there may have not been a better entryway into watchmaking, mechanical watchmaking, than the PRX. It maybe still to this day. It's a modern icon. I can't believe I'm saying that already, but now there's been so many people that have gotten into the world of watch collecting because of this watch.
I think there's a reinvigoration of that retro style watch, and having an integrated bracelet's really cool. So I've probably seen one of your videos, like I said, and I stumbled into a boutique and I bought this watch, and I already knew what the PRX looked like from gifting it to a friend, a different one, but I wore it. It's just, I'm a little sized out of it because I have smaller wrists. So I wore it for a while. I also played the drums in this poor watch quite often, but I wore it and I enjoyed it, but I actually ended up gifting this to my dad. So we came from like a lower middle class income family, and we never grew up with like a ton of nice stuff. I have 8 siblings. So he flew out to DC to visit me. So I called a local boutique in the area, and I was like, hey, I don't want to buy him a new watch because I have one that I don't really wear, but it's nice. Can you just bring this from the back and like resize it for him? It's a really weird request, but I wanted to give my dad a special moment and give him something that he'll enjoy. So we went to the boutique. I didn't tell him what we were doing. He already knew I was a watch guy, so he probably had some inclination of where we were going. But I took him to the boutique and got a size for him. So this does not fit my wrist, but This is my dad's watch, and I had him ship it for the video. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and it was just like his first watch.
it's
Had he
his
ever
first
dabbled
serious watch.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we didn't grow up with a whole lot, so like being able to give back to like your family and just building special moments with my dad. You know, the PRX isn't my favorite watch that I have, but this will always be a really special and sentimental watch for me. So
Fantastic.
yeah,
It's fantastic, man.
yeah.
So we talked about a little bit of Japanese watchmaking, and he ended up getting into the Grand Seiko world.
Oh,
got the Grand
Lord.
Seiko bug. So we got a Winter Taietsu
Yes.
SPK 415. Love it.
The 415, I love this watch. You know, when I look at my collection, the most sentimental watch that I have and the most meaningful watch that I have memories and just enjoy wearing is this. So on the same trip that I was on with CJ before we went to Kuoe, we had a couple of strong zeros, a couple of drinks in Shibuya, as one does.
Sounds about right.
And I had this like John Mayer, Bing Clymer moment when they're like in Talking Watches and they're like, oh, we're gonna go pick up Daytonas. And this is way less cool than a Daytona moment because this is an Andrew Robinson moment, but I had a couple drinks and I walked into a watch dealer that I've seen like some of their stuff online, and I was like, oh my God, we should go in there. And at this point, it's been 2 days in the trip and I've been looking at watch shops this entire time, and CJ wants to probably like injure me. But yeah, I walked in here and I truly just fell in love, and I don't know if it was the cocktails talking to me or what, but it was certainly an impulse buy. But when you're in Japan, you know, picking up a Grand Seiko as a watch collector is a must. So I did, and I don't regret it. I wear the heck out of this thing, and I love it, and I think it's beautifully finished. The movement is, the way it reflects is just absolutely insane. I think it's a stunning watch, and it's light, so it's comfortable.
Titanium, yep.
You can hide scratches really well on it, and then just the dial, having the blue, the gold, and that really dark, dirty snow color on the dial is awesome. And then, yeah, it's one of my most accurate watches. So when I put this thing on the time grapher, it holds better time than some of my other watches in here that I won't name drop. But
I mean, that's a given. I mean, spring drive is just next level stuff.
it's incredible. But I built so many memories to this watch, and I enjoy wearing it. So I'm definitely a big Grand Seiko advocate.
Before we look at some of the other watches, like
Yeah.
I'd love to just learn a little bit more about when you're going out like, in the field,
Yeah.
you're thinking about the watch to wear, like what's going through your mind? Like what are the type of watch that you're looking for when you're in that circumstance?
That's a great question, and I have a funny answer for you.
Okay.
So when I first started collecting watches, and I'd see people on YouTube talk about how they have like an Excel sheet for their watches and like categorizing them. I thought that was absolutely maddening. I'm like, you're so deep in this collection that you have to categorize your thoughts on an Excel sheet. Well, while I was flying here, Teddy, I was like, I really need to categorize my watches, like what I can wear at work. And I did that. And because, you know, obviously some of these pieces, you're not going to be able to wear it in uniform, and that's okay. But like the Willard, some of the other watches we haven't talked about, those generic dive watches are kind of perfect in uniform. So yeah, I try not to shop the stereotypical army watch, but it turns out that I'm really good at it. So.
Yeah. And so the Willard you see a lot. I mean, you'll wear the Grand Seiko too. Have you worn that?
I will not wear it in the field because I'm so scared of, it's so sentimental to me now that if something were to happen to it, I'd be a little sad panda. But I do wear it a lot in uniform. Like on the day-to-day in the office, I'll wear it, absolutely. It's a perfect daily wear watch. It truly is. It's so comfortable, and now they just came out with the micro adjustment on the new bracelets. So they have met every criteria that a watch collector would need, and I can't say enough about that.
And now we just have to wait to see when they'll eventually make that available for watches like this. But
That's it.
that's the waiting game now. 2 Rolexes on the table. Which one do you want to start with first?
2 Rolexes on the table. I think we should start with the Submariner.
Let's do it.
So the Submariner is a watch that I bugged the ever-living heck out of my AD for. And I really wanted a nice rugged watch that I could wear in uniform, that I could like shamelessly just wear out in the field and beat up and make my own story for it. So I walked into an AD in Honolulu, and I kept asking week after week. And eventually, about a month, I only waited a month, I got this watch. And I was trying to celebrate my promotion to captain. And it's not a huge promotion, but it is something that I think that is worth celebrating. So I got myself this watch because I still have years left in the military, and I think this is something I want to take on that journey. So I've worn this to the field many times. It has all of its scratches and dings, and
That's great, man.
I have no issue wearing it. A lot of watch collectors talk about finally gifting a watch to yourself after you've purchased it, and I've done that with this. I bought it and I let it own me for a little bit because I cared about it so much. And I'm like, if I really care about it, I'll just wear it. And I've hit that maturity in my collection, and I just wear it all the time, and I've really enjoyed it. So this is my go-to uniform watch, and
So you wear this in the field a lot?
I wear this in the field all the time.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
love it.
I wear it on NATO out into the field. So when I'm jumping out of planes, I'm not worried about dinging up anything as I'm like falling from the air screaming. So no, just kidding. But
My hot take on this watch is that its own acclaim gets in the way of it actually not ending up in as many collections as it should.
Yeah.
And I think you're a testament to that, because you might think that this is it's so obvious, ubiquitous, and I have this with my own self. Like, you want to show that I don't want to go for the most well-known watch because that's the most well-known watch, but the reality is it's the most well-known watch for a reason. It's because it's so viable, and we almost want to think ourselves as separate from what's like known by people. Like, I do that with like the speed. Like, one of my most worn watches is just a plain professional Hesalite Speedmaster.
That's perfect.
And it's a similar concept where everyone knows what it is. It's not something that's distinct or necessarily unique, but what makes it unique is the fact that it actually works for me. And I think you have to embrace that idea. And I think the sub, and like, this is still such a pure form. Yeah, we see it everywhere, but like, it's such a perfect watch. It really is.
There's a couple watches in my collection I know that it has a little bit more clout, but I think as you mature in your collecting, you go away from that a little bit. And I've certainly done that over time. But if you really just want a unique sub, just get a no date. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's awesome, so it gets the job done.
And the fact that you wear it, speaking of getting the job done, you actually wear it, which I love
wear
too.
it while getting the job done.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Then another Rolex, GMT Master 2, got the lefty.
Yes, a really cool story from this watch, actually. So if you know me personally, you know that the GMT function is just my absolute favorite. As an Army guy, I'm always traveling. I don't always have an opportunity to wear it in the field, but I'm always on a plane, always flying somewhere, going somewhere. So I really romanticize the idea of having dual time zone. This past year, my girlfriend is still in Hawaii and I'm in DC, so it's awesome to just look on your wrist and see the time difference. But the way I got this, I was talking to a buddy who owns Arlington Watch Works, the company I mentioned earlier, and he was like, hey, I know you really want this watch. I know a gentleman who owns an AD and he loves the military, he's super pro-military. He was like, the worst we can do is give it a shot. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard this before. We can give it a go and shoot our luck. So I got a call after talking to my buddy. I got a call the next day from the gentleman that owns the AD, and he's like, hey, you're skipping the line. There's 250 people on this wait list, but I loved your story and I'd be really happy to give you this watch. So it was an absolutely incredible experience, and I can't say enough good things about that AD, but I took my buddy Owen, who is the Vostok guy. So we took the Vostok guy, and I was like, hey, you're just getting into watches. You want to see how a Rolex transaction goes and see some other cool watches at the boutique? He was like, yeah, let's go. So we go up there, and I get my GMT, and the owner is like, hey, Owen, like, what is like a dream watch for you? Like, what are you into? I know you're in the Marine Corps. Like, what kind of style watch are you into? And Owen's like, I've seen Andrew's Submariner a couple times. I really want a Submariner one day. I think it's super fitting and appropriate to wear at work. So we shop around for about 45 minutes looking at different watches. I'm being a watch nerd and telling Owen about all these different brands. And this owner comes out in the back and he brings out a Submariner. So I think Owen has the world's shortest waitlist record of 45 minutes.
Wow.
So for a Submariner, so we both walked out with a GMT and a sub, and it's just something you're never gonna forget it. So it was an incredible experience. But I absolutely love this watch. I'm also left-handed, so I wear all my watches on my right wrist.
Okay, yeah. I didn't even put that together until now. I was gonna ask, like, hey, why'd you go with that? Okay,
that's why.
Sense.
Yeah, I'm not like, I love the Pepsi. I love the black and blue watch, but this is a watch that I feel like fits my personality really well, and it goes well in uniform because I got the green right there, so I can kind of sneak it. A little flashy with the Jubilee, but I love the Jubilee. So
the GMT Master 2 on Jubilee is the way to go.
It's the perfect watch. But yeah, I've enjoyed the heck out of this thing, so it's awesome.
Sweet pick, man. So another watch that it's amazing, but something maybe I wouldn't expect you to own.
Yes.
Cartier.
Cartier, yes, the Cartier Santos Medium. I picked this watch for a couple reasons. I think that when we buy watches, we try to tune it to our personality. This is a watch I always thought I would buy it. I just didn't know when. It's one of those watches you see and you're like, I love the story. I love the history of it. It's just not my 50-meter target. That's like 300 meters away from me with buying watches. But I was on a run, and this is a true story, and it shows how sick my watch brain is. I was on a run, and I was on a run through the memorials in DC, and I was looking at the Washington Monument. And this sounds way more romantic than it is, and it's really not. I was looking at the Washington Monument, and it was just like really white and old, and I was like, you know what else? Yeah, the Santos dial kind of reminds me of this vibe.
That's
like, sick in the brain, right?
I need some help kind of moment right there.
Yeah, you can tell by my collection I need some help. But I was like, so I swear to God, I stopped running and text a local dealer, and I was like, hey, do you have a Santos Medium, man? And
It looks the same as a Washington
I was like,
Monument.
Washington Monument, DC watch. We're always looking for moments to celebrate, and
that's a stretch. I like that one.
This was my core rationalization. Yeah, I can't wait to see the comments on that. But no, yeah, I always knew I was going to own it anyway, so I was like putting off for a special moment. But sometimes you just buy a watch because you enjoy it, and it's a beautiful watch. And to be honest, the Grand Seiko and this were both kind of impulse buys, and these are two of my favorite watches. So it goes to show for the people watching that sometimes impulse buys do work. So
and go for a run in DC. Look at the Washington Monument. You have a perfect excuse for your wife and your loved ones on why you're going to buy an extra watch.
The cherry blossoms are blooming. You can get a Grand Seiko. You know what I mean? So we have a ton of reasons we can come up with.
Yes. Start getting more creative, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
Speaking of creativity, this is a watch I have not seen in person before.
Yeah.
Pretty out there. Christopher Ward.
Yeah.
Very familiar with the brand, of course, but not this watch. Tell me a little bit more.
So the Christopher Ward Colchester is a watch that I seen while I was working at an event called District Time in DC. It's like a micro brand event. And I was helping Arlington Watchworks with their booth. And I was just going around selling watches, talking watches with all these people. And I seen Christopher Ward. There's a couple things that turned me onto this watch. And number one was how awesome the team at Christopher Ward are. I think a big bonus to buying watches is when the people behind them are awesome. And I just really got behind the gentleman named Trey at Christopher Ward. We were talking about it, and I was originally going to get the Celeste, but then he was like, "Hey, man, you told me you're in the Army. You're going to an airborne unit. We make a watch for parachutists." And I was like, "No way!" So I took a look at it, and that was all he needed to say, really. I already planned on buying a watch there, just to kind of memento the event of working the watch and just having fun there. And CW is an awesome brand. It's chronometer certified. It's really low key, and it has the recessed crown. So you can push it, and it doesn't interfere with anything. So when you're in an airborne unit, when you're jumping out of a plane, you have to pull risers and do all this complicated stuff in the air, and you don't want anything getting tugged. Mm-hmm. So that's perfect. It's not going to get tugged in anything. And it's all carbon, so it wears really light, and it's not noticeable. So one big thing is if you're in a hide site or doing something, you don't want to be detected. So you're not going to be wearing a Santos out to the field in war. But this is something that you can take to war, and I think that's the intention behind it. And I think it's very rare we see brands doing that now, and I just wanted to reward myself with that, and this is a watch that I'll probably be jumping out of planes with as well.
Nice. So. And you're lefty too. I mean, have the recessed crown as a lefty, that's a nice little value add.
Yes, it's a huge value added, so I really love this watch. It has this aggressive look, and it is a 40 millimeter, but it doesn't wear that large, so it wears perfect on my tiny baby wrist. So
that's a neat watch. All right, so you got the black watch there, but you have another black watch on your wrist, and this is a record for the most recent acquisition ever to appear in this series on this channel. Tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah, Teddy, here you go. Go ahead and take a look at this. But this is the Zenith Shadow Revival. Mm-hmm. It's a watch I've been eyeing forever. And as you can see, I don't own a chronograph, and I'm not a big racing guy, and I've never been to the moon, so I didn't have a good reason to own a chronograph. But I love the design of this. They brought back the Revival case from the 60s and 70s, late 60s. And I fell in love with the case design, and I also love a watch that is so low-key that only you and a couple people know about it. As I've matured in my collection journey, I've really fallen in love with the idea of buying something for you and nobody else. And the GMT is something that everyone knows, the Submariner is something everybody knows, but not a lot of people are going to know what the Zenith Shadow is outside of the watch collecting world. And that's kind of why I bought it. I knew I was in the market for a chronograph. I love that it doesn't have a date, and I love the El Primero movement in it. It's just a really amazing watch. So I think this is a perfect place to start and end my chronograph journey.
So you flew into town and shot this episode, and then you went over to the store beforehand and bought this.
Yeah, so I bought it from your boutique, and everyone was awesome there, and they really took care of me. And
you saw the black asphalt on the ground, and it inspired you.
Yeah, I was on the road, and I seen the road, and I was like, oh, this is a perfect.
I need a black watch. This looks exactly the same.
Yeah, and this is a perfect way to wrap up what we were saying at the beginning is you try to run from who you are and your identity of watch collecting. And I'm like, I'm going to get a chronograph, and lo and behold, I get the blacked out chronograph, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine.
You can't deny self. There's nothing wrong with who we are as collectors and who we are in general. I mean, that's what makes this interesting. If you just decide to buy what you think is best for you, not what's actually best for you, you're doing it wrong. And this is the type of purchase that you need to think about and do it with the right intention and the right reason. And if you like it, also just I know you mentioned how you like watches that have a form factor and the way they wear that have a certain wearability. That's going to be, with a chronograph, one of the best options for that, given how the A384 case wears.
Yeah, watch collecting is a journey, and Lord knows I've been on one, as you can see, but I think this is a great place to end my chronograph journey, and until, I find another reason why I'm on a run, but
Yeah.
I've loved it, so.
Yeah, maybe close your eyes on the next round. It might be better for you.
Yeah, just stop running.
Hey, man.
Teddy,
Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.